So one of the things that I've been curious about is there's sort of two things that I've been thinking about this weekend. First one is how incredible some people have ideas, and some people have really remarkable ideas, but they're not even noticed or paid attention to for many years. And the sort of implication, and this is the second thing, is that you have to be okay with just walking and being yourself and doing a good job of being who you are no matter what, and not to have, we like to do extravagant things and do all sorts of really wonderful things as human beings, but um, ultimately I think people that are able to do long-term things are able to have a bit of, I don't know if it's reserve, I don't know what it is, but something that is um, like a little bit standoffish in the sense that they're removed from the current and removed from the relevant, that they simply see that there is something that is really good with the ideas that they have, and then they're removed from that sort of hustle and bustle of demonstrating things and sort of buying into something, right? So it doesn't matter what area that you're in, right? So whether it's religion, you're sort of religious person, or just culture, or um, maybe it's they're in music, or maybe they're an intellectual, an academic, but they tend to not take things at face value, right? And they sort of see things beyond and see sort of consistencies beyond it, where they're like, I don't know if I want to be like that, and I want to be like something that I'm going to be happy with who I actually am, and sort of not buy into all of the scene, right? Whatever that scene is in whatever domain, thing that you're part of, right? So, um, what's interesting with this, the reason why I started I think about this a lot, right? Because I think that's underlying a lot of people's lives is not feeling relevant, feeling like an outsider. Why that is the case, right? So I was thinking about this guy Democritus back in the, one of the Greek philosophers had this idea of breaking things up into atoms, and sort of just basically thinking about the world as, what is the most, breaking things up into small little bits as much as they possibly can, right? Like going and really, really breaking things up. And, from what I understand, I'm not, a really in-depth historian with any of this kind of stuff. Is from what I understand, like it wasn't an accepted idea for many years. It was dead, long dead before it became an accepted thing. And, as somebody that is part of the whole big scene with that, right? Like you must have been very just, man, like kind of upset, kind of, like what the hell? Like nobody's paying attention to this idea, and it's a pretty good idea, right? Like to break things up into atoms and the smallest elements that you could possibly break things up into. It's a pretty ingenious idea, and Democritus, had obviously huge implications for democracy and the sort of beautiful things that came from that. You know, all of it, and virtually all of modern business, like all of culture now, is very much thinking of this sort of individualism and breaking things up into little tiny atoms. So enormous influence on how we do things today, right? Like I would say probably one of the more influential ideas that we know of in how things actually work, right? And yet, this person gets like zero credit during their, like just really not as influential during their day as what they sort of uh, should be and could be, and all those kind of things, right? Like, so that's the interesting is, how do you deal with that, right? Like, how do you be you knowing that you're just being overlooked and nobody cares about what you're doing and what you're about. Well, I think that's where you just have to be, and this is where you have to be like, an outsider. You have to stand back and say, this is who I am, and I'm okay with that. And just walk forward no matter what's going on. Um, be a genuine human being. And, um, you know, honestly, it's just you get up, you do your thing, say your stuff, and then you go home and relax and enjoy your dogs or your cats or your kids or just life or whatever, and then you just call it that, right? And try not to worry about all the rest of it. Um, all the rest of it doesn't matter, right? Like, you have to do it because you think it's the right thing, and that's the reason why you do it. The rest of it is just extraneous fluff, right? And if you get with that, then you're okay. Like, if you have nothing, then you realize it's just fluff, and then when you have a bunch of stuff, you realize it's just fluff too, right? And no matter what you have and how much you actually have, you're realizing it's just all fluff, right? Like, it's just kind of nothingness that adds very little value to your life anyways, and maybe it does, but realize it doesn't add anything. I'm thinking of like the ultra well known people, the famous people. What is their life? How's their life any different, right? I think about Bono, for example. Well, yeah, he probably travels wherever the hell he wants to go to. But his life is probably not a heck of a lot different than you and I's, right? You just get up and do your thing, and you get up, you brush your teeth, have some breakfast, whatever, right? I think about like Bill Gates. I'm thinking about male names right now. I'm not necessarily, biasing that way. It's just because these are the people that are in the news a lot, right? So it might be like somebody like, oh hell, blanking. She was the short-lived prime minister in the UK. In 2022. It's 2022 right now, and I can't remember her name. Elizabeth. Anyways, I'm blanking, but here's this person who's put into world conversation and all this fanfare, but ultimately she just probably just gets up and have breakfast, go does her thing, right? Like, you want to watch this? There's a great movie, The Darkest Hour, about Churchill. And even though there was all this crap going on, and Churchill's the leader of world, basically World War II at that point, leading the whole world and getting people to recognize that, hey, this is crap. Um, he's still just kind of doing his thing, eating and drinking and being Winston Churchill, who apparently wasn't, the nicest person to be around, right? And a lot of people sort of discounted him, but he's still just living his life. And I think, like, that's what you have to get to, is just walk your life, be okay with who you are, and go home, relax, and enjoy it. I think that's it. So you might never get your fanfare. People are never going to notice. They don't care, any of that kind of stuff, whatever, right? Like, you got, obviously you have a lot of sort of, intense feelings about it, but at the same time, you got to take a step back and say, whatever. I know what I'm doing is right. I'm just going to walk forward, and that's it. All right. Take care, and have a wonderful day.